Hello. On this edition of the Old Shot, we're going to be looking at a lens which I call my Nemesis. It's a lens that I've never really got on with. I've owned this lens twice, once with an OM mount, which I got with my first, or I got to match with my first ever Olympus OM10. That passed on to new owners a long time ago, and I, a few years ago, bought Minolta XG-M and X300S, which came with another version of this lens with the MD mount. It is the Sigma 100 to 200mm zoom with f4.5 maximum aperture throughout the zoom range. I've never shot a keeper with this lens. Just never seemed to be able to get on with it. I always thought it was quite soft in the images, but I've never shot black and white with it either. So I decided, especially after the video where I said we should try using lenses we're not comfortable with, that I was going to give it a go. So I mounted it on my XG-M and had to go with it. The specifications, as mentioned, 100 to 200mm one touch zoom, so the focus and the zoom are all part of the same mechanism. It goes from f4.5 to f22. The minimum focus is around about 7.5 feet. It also has a macro facility, which I suspect isn't full macro, but allows it to focus closer. The depth of field scale, you'll see it there. I never find them very easy to use on zooms, and when I'm using a manual focus zoom like this, I tend to focus on the subject, and if the back is out of focus or in focus, down to what aperture I'm using. The feel and the build, it's quite heavy. It's feels solid. There's a lot of metal in it. The grip is better than the material that the grip's made out is better than the later grips that they used, which after a while tended to leach out some sort of sticky, oozy, oily stuff. This one, no stick or ooze on it anywhere. So I loaded the XG-M with Delta 400, not the cheapest film, but I was going to give this lens the best possible chance of impressing. So Delta 400, the photos were taken over 2 trips. One was a couple of churches north of here, sort of rural or semi-rural, and then yesterday we had a walk along one of the public footpaths that we have on our landscape near the beach at Blythe. We'll have a look at the photos and then we'll come back. So the photos show the capabilities of the lens. In use I find the lens still got the zoom creep, but it's got having the focusing and the zoom mechanism in the same action does make it quite difficult if you're trying to do precise focusing and specific framing, because when you're focusing the zoom's going to move, so you're changing your focal length, and when you zoom you often change the focus as well, so not the most comfortable in use. Like I've seen with some of these zoom lenses, when you're focusing, you're looking through the viewfinder, you have what I call split prism dark out. The split prism goes black and you have to try and move your eye around within the viewfinder so that you can see both sides of the split prism for precise focusing. I'm sure there's technical people who can tell you why that happens, but I don't find it with prime lenses, I find it with zoom lenses. It's heavy, and after a while of walking around with this hanging around your neck on the camera, which is also no lightweight, the XG-M, it's not the most comfortable. So the lens, my conclusion is that it's slow. 4.5 isn't a great maximum aperture. It's heavy. The bokeh is quite unpredictable. Sometimes it's weird, sometimes it's smooth. I've even seen a bit of swirl in some of the photographs, but I don't think I can predict how to set this lens up to get a certain type of bokeh. It's unpredictable. It's sharp at times, and I think this time I've been more impressed with it than in previous outings with it, both on the Minolta and also earlier versions that I had with the Olympus OM10. So I would say it's not what I would call a go-to lens. It's not something that I would risk going out with just with this one lens. But I don't think it's my nemesis anymore. I might put it in the bag for certain trips just to have that zoom range, and it's not as bad as I thought it was. So that's a Sigma 100 to 200 mm zoom. I think the design of this lens is probably from late 70s, and I think this one is probably mid 80s, and the guy that I bought the camera from had bought this at some stage, and the camera's mid 80s, so I think that's what this is as well. Anyway, that's it for this one. We'll be looking at another lens soon that was used on the same trips, but not a zoom and not a telephoto. We'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.